Hey everyone, Nakamura here. With Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition around the corner and no more Age remasters on the horizon, I thought it's time to start talking about what we want from Age of Mythology Definitive Edition. In this video series, I'll be covering what I think will make good improvements or additions to the original game. I will not cover ideas around new factions, but rather address more down-to-earth, easier to implement features. For this first episode, I picked the topic of controls and in-match user interface, so let's get going. Sub-selection cycle. In Age of Mythology, there is no way for you to quickly select a subset of your currently selected groups, such as all your archers, without clicking on their group portrait. Meanwhile, in Age of Empires 3, Age of Empires Online, Warcraft 3 and Starcraft 2, etc., you can simply press tab, which will bring the next subgroup into focus. You can use this for several things, such as training units from one selection. Look how quickly I can queue up my units in Starcraft 2 by just hitting my unit training hotkeys and using tab to jump to the next building type group, whereas in AOM, I have to interrupt my hotkey use with clicks on the group icon, reselection of my group, and repeating this process. In AOM, this is made more efficient by putting different building types on different control groups, but there's a very obvious management cost to that, a loss of control group real estate, and greater mechanical difficulty. One could make the argument that auto-queue makes manual production unnecessary, but there are circumstances where manual production can be beneficial, particularly when you frequently switch unit types that you are training. This form of cycling with tab is also very useful for casting abilities manually. AOM currently only uses automatic ability casting, but making that manual is a toggle setting that I would expect in the Definitive Edition. It can be extremely infuriating when your mummy converts a random hoplite rather than a colossus. Manual control would fix that and increase the efficiency of these abilities while raising the skill requirements a little, which would be a necessary compensation for the several quality of life features that I will propose throughout this video. Anyways, take a look at me using 3 active abilities in quick succession in Starcraft 2, using tab to cycle between the different unit types. My Marines use Stimpack, my tanks enter siege mode, and my Liberators get deployed as well in a matter of moments. This would require 3 control groups without tab, which is way harder and takes more keyboard real estate. Queue status. In Age of Mythology, you only get information about how far along your units are to being trained, or if your building is training something if you select only one building. Badges will not display this information. In the other Definitive Editions, a global production queue is displayed, however, which is nice, but only solves half of the problem. In StarCraft, each building has a production pip. If you are training something in the building, it will be presented by a pip in the building's card if multiple buildings are selected. This way, all you need to do is control group your buildings and look at the status to make sure that everything is active. Note that in StarCraft you also get a status bar over your building models, so looking at your base also gives you this information without the need to select anything. The buildings also have some animations such as flashing lights, which telegraph activity to opposing players, whereas Age of Mythology has neither of those features. Unit cards. Age of Mythology uses cards for batches of the same object only. These are very useful when you want to know how many enemy units there are exactly, something you actually can't do in StarCraft 2. You can also use these to directly select all units of that type in the current selection. However, if you want to select an individual unit that there are multiple of, you will have to do so via the 3D models. Meanwhile, in StarCraft 2 and Age of Empires 1 and 2, you get individual unit cards. In case there are too many, several pages will be created that you can cycle through. This way, you can see the status of each of your units without relying on displayed HP bars. You can also use these cards as a method of selection. For example, to pull back a hurt unit in order to save it, or for quickly leaving behind a bunch of units to stay on the defense. Sub-selection works in conjunction with the cards, of course. Additive and batch selection. In Age of Mythology, the Shift and Control keys perform an additive and subtractive selection when using them with clicks. Essentially the same functionality. In StarCraft, these are rolled into the same hotkey with Shift. Control, on the other hand, is able to do the same as a double click. Select all units of a type. This can be particularly useful in the heat of the moment on small units that are moving, or any other case where you are likely to misclick. This stuff can also be combined with the unit cards, of course. Rallying onto units. In StarCraft 2, you are able to directly rally to a unit. Much like in Age of Mythology, you can rally your units to buildings or your villagers to resources. Rallying in general will generate connection lines to visualize the connection between the origin building and the target. Here's a clip of my freshly made units following my Hellion around that I've rallied to. This is not a thing in Age of Mythology, sadly, which forces you to constantly recreate the rally points. Camera location hotkeys. In StarCraft 2, you can set camera location hotkeys. Basically another type of control group that snaps you to a location on the map. This is used to quickly navigate the map without clicking the minimap, or the even worse option, scrolling manually. Age of Mythology does support snapping to a type of building which is really useful, but can't hurt to have both. Cancelling units in training. Age of Mythology does not have a hotkey for cancelling units in training queues, so the way people do it is clicking the icon while cycling buildings. This is a far easier process in StarCraft, where you simply spam the hotkey to cancel the desired amount of units in your building selection. Unit information. To know what upgrades a unit has in Age of Mythology, you need to click the unit and then its unit card. This opens the nearly full screen panel that shows more detailed information but still lacks a lot of the critical information and obscures your screen. Meanwhile, StarCraft 2 displays all information in the unit selection area, and hovers provide additional detail. I firmly believe that it is key to provide as much information as possible to the player without forcing them to turn to mods to obtain knowledge. To that end, I have designed a UI layout that I would like to propose for Age of Mythology Definitive Edition. I'm not an artist, and nor is this maximum effort, but this wireframe should get the ideas across. Here we can see what happens when you select a single unit such as a villager. A lot is unchanged in terms of the layout. That is to ensure the UI is familiar, but there are a lot of additions here. You can see the detailed stats of the villager in the middle, gather rates, armors, attack, and the upgrades that are currently applied to the villager. You can also see the action submenu has been removed, and instead I am proposing a grid hotkey layout with two submenus for construction, economic and military. This will ensure that only a comfortable amount of hotkeys will be necessary to use. This also allows villagers to receive the full set of unit commands such as patrol or stances, rather than the building menu taking up every comfortable hotkey, although it does come at the cost of requiring 2 button presses to make a building. This also reduces the need to use combination hotkeys that Age of Mythology has a lot of originally. On the left there is some new info. Population gets broken down to show the amount of civilians and military to help with population management. The idle banners in the top right make an appearance as well, from popular mods such as Account as UI. Control groups get moved right over the unit card area since it's selection related, reducing the amount of center to corner eye twitching you need to do to check your control group status. Chat has also been moved to the center, which makes it easier to read when there are a lot of game alerts such as status messages. The second and third screen are quick snapshots of what I would put into the economic and military construction menus respectively. This is how you would have to make your buildings. The fourth screen displays a group selection. It combines the features of StarCraft 2 and Age of Mythology. You get both the individual and the batch unit cards, so you can quickly see how many units you have, while also seeing their individual status in an organized way. Lastly, the same thing but for production buildings, rather than an army. Again, combining the features of Age of Mythology and StarCraft 2, allowing for far easier manual production. Note that I'm proposing the ability to use hotkeys for upgrades, which Age of Mythology can't do at the moment. So that is everything. What did you think of these ideas? Leave your own ideas for controls and UI in the comments below. Perhaps the future devs would take note of some. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I also stream on Twitch 3 times a week, so make sure to check that out. Links to that and more in the description. I will see you again soon.